Please wave if you have ever received a pre-written character sheet that's had a super complex and thorough and meaningful relationship with your character's parents or sibling or first love or any other backstory character that was really important to your character but never showed up in play. Yeah. Me as well, and I have to admit I've also written those. The thing is, this kind of things shape people. These relationships, the people that are formative to us, define who we are. And unfortunately, we can't always have everyone present in every LARP, or we'll just constantly run into this super awkward situation of like, hey, my kindergarten friend and my long-lost lover, what a surprise to accidentally meet you both in this super exclusive mission to a space station at the other end of the universe. So we kind of have to find a way to do it differently. Wouldn't it be great if we could take all this depth and nuance and complexity from those backstory relations and just somehow transfer them towards those like more realistic but also more superficial relations to people that we haven't really met before? Well, we can. And in fact, real people do that all the time. Psychologists call this transference. It's often what's behind it if you meet a complete stranger and instantly have like a strong emotional reaction to them because they kind of remind you of someone. Maybe you trust them without a reason because they laugh just like your sibling, or maybe you instantly feel repulsed by them because something about how they talk to you reminds you of your boss. Basically, what happens when you experience transference is that you take some kind of emotions or relationship pattern or even behaviors from a formative past relationship and apply them in a completely different and unrelated context. Now, this concept has been coined by Sigmund Freud a long time ago, so take the science with a grain of salt, but for LARP, this thing can basically offer us a cheat code to introduce anything or anyone as a relation without anyone actually having to play them. So, because we're talking about LARP and not about science, we're not going to call it a psychological mechanism, but a mechanic, and because of that, we're also not going to call it transference, but we're going to call it shadow relations. And we're going to give it a nice sounding definition that basically just says, okay, we have a relation, and we have this other relation which we kind of add to it as what we call a shadow that the person projects on the other person, and then we will play with this combination of the relations. And the interesting part happens with how those relations intersect. So how would this look in practice? Let's look at those two characters from the Larp Blankspace, which is the Larp we originally designed this mechanic for. The character on the left is a person who grew up in a very conservative and strict family, but rebelled against them because they wanted to follow some kind of dubious and kind of problematic get-quick-rich scheme, which turned out just the way you would probably expect it to turn out. On the other hand, they are a huge fan of that other character on the... No, it was actually the character on the right. Yeah, left and right. The character on the... right from your side, I'm sorry. The character on the right is a successful business coach, and this first character is a huge fan of this business coach. Now, the problem is, whenever this character meets the business coach, this business coach kind of reminds them of their parents. So while they want to prove themselves to that coach and be coached by them to actually finally succeed, they also kind of feel the urge to rebel against them and show them that they know better all the time, show them that their choices were right, because that's kind of what they want to show their parents, which can provide a lot of drama potential, but it could also be more actionable because there are no real facts to back this up or things that happened between those characters. But LARP doesn't have to be realistic. So what if this first character, over the course of the LARP, gradually started to believe the second character to actually be their parent? And then they can start acting on all those past conflicts and all those things. And the catch is, if it's a pre-written relationship, this can be a two-way street. That coach may have never had a child, but they once had a mentee they were extremely close with on a personal level because they were so promising. But then that mentee took all the potential and the coaching and used it to do something that inflicted a lot of harm on others, which the coach is very ashamed of and would do anything not to repeat. And bam, we have two characters with those two shadows that form a functioning relationship dynamic, well, that details might be a little bit off, but that doesn't matter because the emotions are not. And the dynamics of who does what are not. When the first character acts in the way towards the coach they would towards their parents, the coach responds in a way that is in line what this first character expects their parents to do. And they can continue playing, even though the stories that are happening inside the two players' heads are completely different. Now, this may sound a little bit like weird meta brain yoga, and it is, but from our experience with foreruns of Blankspace, it actually works like a charm once people start playing and stop thinking about it. So instead of thinking about what works and what is possible, let's just look at another example of what you can do with it. What you can see here is a scene where a character who's very rational and repressed is quite literally deciding whether or not they should finally kill off their emotions for good. Because you cannot only project people. You can project pretty much anything that your character has a relationship to that can be turned into something actionable. This character is very terrified of losing control, so they feel a lot of fear and hatred towards their own emotions. And those are feelings that can lead towards meaningful, dramatic actions if they are something you feel towards another person. So by projecting these emotions onto another character, they are taking the central inner conflict of this character and externalizing and acting it out with another player. So there are a lot more examples, but I have to keep to the time, so I will not go into the detail. To wrap it up, people are weird. People are complicated. And people are shaped by things barely anyone remembers, by people that can never show up in a Larp, and they are fighting fights in their brain that will never really make sense to others if they're on this inside, but can be just as intense as what is going on the outside. And while we all love a good immersion closet, those weird and complicated things going on the inside deserve to be brought to the surface. This is one way to do it. Thank you.